Welcome to the Power of Owning Your Career podcast. I'm your host, Simone Morris, and I have a passion for empowering others to take responsibility for their careers. Yes, I've written several books on owning your career and am loving hosting this podcast. This podcast is for you if you're willing to make a shift to the driver's seat in your career. We feature leaders who inspire, empower, and motivate you for consistent career action for results. Please continue to join us every Sunday when a new episode is released. Let's get into this week's show. When I was a little kid, I couldn't wait for summer break because it meant having a break from school and having a lot of fun. And perhaps I'm thinking of this because my 6-year-old is soon to be having a summer break and we're looking into summer camps, and it's reminding me of those experiences. And when I was working corporate, I remember I couldn't wait for Fridays, the weekend. I couldn't wait for Christmas break. Those times where I got a break to just have fun. When I was hosting the podcast, or actually hosting 2 podcasts, I couldn't wait for hold the presses. Drivers aren't in the habit of waiting. They're in the habit of taking control of the driver's seat. And that's really what this show is about and what the vision was for this show. I can remember back to the beginning of the driver's seat movement. And really, it was a pivotal moment in my career where a boss said to me, "You're responsible for your career." And it just clicked in my head and took me down a whole different direction. My name is Simone Morris, and I'm host of the Power of Owning Your Career podcast. I wanted to come and talk to you in this bonus episode because I'm connecting the dots together and seeing that as a driver, we can sometimes revert to the passenger seat. And as I have been reminded in hundreds of conversations about the driver's seat, over 100 on this podcast, in fact, and also in speaking engagements and career coaching clients, the passenger seat can be oh so attractive, and before we know it, we can end up staying there for a long time. Recently, I had a conversation about the podcast, and I was deciding what I wanted to do after 100 episodes. What did I want to change? And I was reminded that I am in the driver's seat. So as a result of that, I wanted to come on and let you know that new episodes of the podcast will be returning on August 22nd. That's right. I am in the driver's seat and giving myself the gift of time, the gift of the summer, a break, to have some fun, and to return to the podcast on August 22nd. There are so many great episodes that you can check out for the podcast over the summer. You can catch up and, in fact, take action on these different episodes. I recently went back to episode number 1 and I realized, my goodness, I was teaching project management. I had no idea what was in store for me when I started this podcast. I just knew that I had a passion for doing interviews and hearing career stories. They inspired me. Hearing people talk about obstacles and how, despite obstacles, they were able to get into the driver's seat for their careers. And I'm excited. I'm excited about what's next for the podcast. I'm excited about what's next for me. But I do know that back in my corporate days, I took a sabbatical. Which is the gift of pause. the gift of smelling the roses outside, the gift of watching the water at the beach, whatever it is that you need to do, you can give yourself a pause as well. So I'm giving myself the gift of a pause. I've done some work around auditing the podcast and coming up with some ideas for the next season of the podcast. I'm excited to share that with you. I've already begun recording episodes, but I want to refuel, re-energize, bring lots of smiles back, and the passion behind the original vision for the podcast, which was really to empower you to be in the driver's seat, to not let life happen to you, to know that you have a say in what happens to your end result when it comes to life, when it comes to your career. That was the vision that I had for the podcast, to really follow up from the book, The Power of Owning Your Career the Power of Owning Your Career book. That really is the impetus for this podcast and really strings along the journey, like I said, about my awareness of my career is my responsibility. Just like I want you to know that no matter what's going on in your career right now, if you're happy, in the middle, unhappy, whatever it is, it's your responsibility to make tweaks so that you feel good at the end state about your body of career work. And so I want to impart to you that I will be doing my part to really bring stellar guests to you to share their experiences that you can learn from, we can learn from. To tell you the truth, I'm always a student when I'm interviewing each of these leaders, because I'm learning from their stories as well. And I learn just going back and listen to episodes. That's what I plan to do this summer, is to listen to episodes in the podcast. And I could tell you the top 3 episodes, at least in the podcast, is Kanika Tolver's Be a Brand, Not an Employee. That's one episode. Marie Mann talks about go out on a limb and find your fruit. That's another episode. And another episode is Say No to Subservience. That is such a good episode as well. And I can go on, because I think about the stories that have been told. I always look for the red thread in the story that really says that's the key message that the listeners need to hear. So I want you to go back and listen to the episodes. Now, if you want to get in contact with me over the summer, talk about the podcast, talk about careers, please do so. You can find me through the connectwithsimone.com website, which is going to be a hub for all social media sites, my books, and all the things that I'm doing. So the main place that you can find me is connectwithsimone.com, and you'll be able to connect with me through that portal. I want to let you know that I will be doing career coaching over the summer. That's my livelihood, and I continue to work with clients to have their career breakthroughs. So if you would like a career breakthrough, I would love to work with you and learn more about what your situation is and what you're wanting to make happen. And so you can reach me, or you can set up an appointment for that at the www.careerbreakthroughcall.com. Again, it's www.careerbreakthroughcall.com, and you can set up a conversation with me, complimentary, to talk about what's happening with you and to see how we might work together, how I can help you be in the driver's seat for your career. So that's what I wanted to come and tell you today, is that enjoy the summer. The summer's coming, and it's been a heavy year. And know when you need to take a big pause and reflect and fuel up. Some of the things that I'll be doing this summer, just to let you know, is I'll be sitting in the chair of being a guest. I will be doing some podcast and just having some fun with it and sharing my story. So it's going to be an exciting summer. It's going to be a summer of rejuvenation, and the podcast is not far from my mind. I will be thinking about it. In fact, I'll be recording episodes for the coming season, but I do want you to know that the new season, new episodes will be released on August 22nd. I want to thank you for being a loyal listener of the podcast. If you're new, my name is Simone Morris, and I am a career coach and a inclusive leadership expert, and I really am all about leadership. Really about teaching people how to elevate their leadership in their careers, and that includes being an inclusive leader. So that's what I focus on in my day-to-day work. I have a passion for empowering women to succeed in their careers, and that can be found in the books that I've written around career ownership, The Power of Owning Your Career, 52 Tips to Owning Your Career, Achievement Unlocked, hundreds of articles that I've written for different platforms. So please be sure to connect with me at the connectwithsimone.com website, and enjoy your summer. And I will talk to you soon. And until then, be sure to take control and be in the driver's seat for your career. Thank you so much.
I sincerely hope that you enjoyed this week's empowering career story on the podcast. If you did, I'm going to ask you to do me a favor. Wherever you listen to the podcast, be sure that you are subscribing and that you rate and review the podcast. It's so important as we continue to spread the word of career empowerment. In addition, you can head over to the LinkedIn platform and join the Power of Owning Your Career discussion group. There you can have access to the guests who have been on the podcast, as well as others listening to the podcast, as well as myself, where we can continue the conversation. I hope to see you on that platform. You can also email me at pooyc@simonemorris.com if you have a suggestion for guest or a message that you want me to hear personally. Thanks so much, and make it an inspiring, empowering week in your career.